here's Brodie Brazil.
Well, it's not just because of my initials. I'm a huge fan of Class B Airspace and the magic words that every pilot wants to hear. You are cleared into the Bravo. Okay. This just means that you are entering somewhere busy, somewhere commercial. It's probably the same airspace that you go on vacation from. Like, that's where your airliner takes off from. Class B airports are big. The airspace surrounding these facilities are usually large and complicated. They're that upside down wedding cake that you're seeing right now on your screen. But this video is all about getting your Class B clearance into the airspace. By the way, subscribe to this channel and thumbs up on this video by the end if it provides you with any value. So let me tell you a little bit of history and backstory here. That is where I did all of my private pilot training way back in the early 2000s. San Carlos Airport, which is just a handful of miles southeast of San Francisco International Airport. Yeah, that is a busy place day and night and weekend and everywhere in between. Tons of heavies coming in and out, and not just San Francisco, but across the bay. You've got the Charlie airspace of Oakland. You've got some more Delta airspace of Hayward, not to mention San Jose International, Moffett, Palo Alto. Yeah, this is complicated airspace. I mean, even San Carlos's airspace has two different tops to it, 2,000 on the southern side and below 1,500 on the northern side. So there was a lot to learn and digest, right? Just airspace alone, becoming a private pilot here. But I highly recommend it in reverse, because throughout the rest of my training, I was never intimidated to fly around these parts, to do a Bravo transition, to talk to the TRACON, to get a clearance, to talk to San Francisco Tower, to do what I needed to do inside their airspace. So get exposed to this stuff. That, first off, is my backstory and my recommendation here. But that's just a little bit of the history. And yeah, when I became an instructor, I noticed a lot of younger and inexperienced pilots scared to go around the Bravo. And it doesn't have to be that way. The big thing you need to know here is the magic word, cleared. And usually it's cleared into Class Bravo airspace, cleared into the Bravo. November 1, 2, 3, 4 Alpha, cleared into San Francisco Class Bravo airspace. And then it's usually including a heading or an altitude, maintain 4,000, well, probably not that high, maintain 1,500, stay west or south of the Bayshore Freeway or a landmark or things like that. But usually it comes with a clearance and also some directions to it, headings and altitudes. But you need to hear cleared into the Bravo or cleared into Class Bravo from the TRACON or from the tower controller. If you don't get it from them, you are not cleared. And I know I could just end the video and say, well, it's as simple as that. Follow that one rule. But there are some places where it does get confusing. Like, a lot of times people are thrown off because the controller will say November 1, 2, 3, 4 Alpha, radar contact, and then give you a location. You say, yep, that's me. But they have not cleared you into the Bravo yet. You've established that two-way communication, which is good for other classes of airspace, but not in Class Bravo. Also, if you've been previously assigned a heading or an altitude by ATC and you're VFR still, you're not IFR, that doesn't necessarily mean that you are cleared inside the Bravo. That is still your PIC, pilot in command responsibility, to not enter the Bravo without a clearance. Or if you were just on flight following with your own navigation, and yeah, the controller is just monitoring the traffic around you. And you know what? Any good controller is also going to give you a heads up, like, November 1, 2, 3, 4 Alpha, Class Bravo airspace, 5 miles ahead. What would you like to do about that? Like, they'll drop you a subtle hint. But just understand that flight following alone doesn't mean a Bravo clearance. And then lastly, all of this discussing VFR flight, but if you are on an instrument flight plan, totally separate case here, totally separate scenario. They're not going to steer you into the Bravo unless you're obviously cleared to be in the Bravo. So most everything I'm saying here applies to VFR flight. But there are several other clearances and phrases you might hear. Cleared as requested typically means you're good to go in the Bravo. Like if you've asked for a Bravo transition, November 1, 2, 3, 4 Alpha, cleared as requested. Okay, I still might double check. Hey, it's 1, 2, 3, 4 Alpha. Just want to confirm, clear to the Bravo. Inside the Bravo, yes. Proceed as requested, especially like to a spot inside the airspace. Proceed as requested to San Francisco VOR, which is, by the way, on the field. Okay. Am I cleared into the Bravo, though? Just want to double check. Or if you're cleared to a fix inside the Class B airspace, but again, usually that's on an instrument flight, IFR flight rules. Okay, so those are some other things that work here. Let me just cover the rule on all of this. It's 91-131A1, operations in Class B airspace. Quote, the operator must receive an ATC clearance from the ATC facility having a jurisdiction for that area before operating an aircraft in that area. Like, it's as simple as this. Don't bust the rule. There's no two ways about the rule. Don't go into Bravo unless you have the proper clearance. But I also want to tell you this. Like a lot of things, Class B airspace is not a brick. It's not a brick wall in the sky. If you have to penetrate Class B airspace to save property, avoid a collision, save a life, there's plenty of time on the ground, and so long as you're not causing any other danger or scenarios or situations, like you're not making something else worse, so long as you are basically putting out a fire by entering Class B airspace, there will be plenty of time to explain this later. And you might have to the FAA to keep your certificate. There might be a lot going on here. But my point is, you're the PIC. If you can justify entering this airspace because you had to, don't make it a rock and a hard place. Like, I can't enter that Bravo, but I'm also facing some sort of danger behind me here. And I don't know what it is. Is it a cloud that you're not certified to fly through? Is it other traffic? I don't know the case. I'm just saying there's worse things than busting airspace if you're doing it to salvage something else. Not your reputation, to literally salvage life or something else. There will be a time to properly explain yourself and right yourself, vindicate yourself later on. But I realize that's a rare case, but I do want to point that out. So the best method here, the best practices for all of this, entering Class B airspace, like, again, be 100% certain. And I understand the Class B radio frequency is usually quite busy, or it's quite proficient or professional, and maybe you're intimidated to jump back in and say, hey, approach 34 Alpha, just want to make sure I'm cleared on this Bravo. Isn't that worth the certainty, the zero doubt to proceed on your flight and not think about losing your ticket or the phone call you're going to have to make later? Like, this could get dicey if you bust, right? Also, just, to double check. There's no problem about double checking. There's really no issue with that, so long as you're not doing this every time and you're not doing it a third or fourth time. I don't see any problems with that. Know the boundaries of the Class Bravo. This is not something that should sneak up on you like, oh, I'm 3/4 of a mile away from this. It's at my 12 o'clock. I wasn't paying attention to this at all. And that kind of goes to my last point here, like, be 5 miles ahead of the airplane. You should always be doing that on a flight that requires such precise navigation and steering. But be 5 miles ahead. And if you have to, right? If I know that Bravo is 2 miles ahead of me, and I have yet to get my clearance, but I'm just expecting it might be coming from the controller, I'm going to take that power, I'm going to bring it back, I'm going to pull the nose up, I'm going to throw a little nose up trim, I'm going to slow us down 20 knots. That is going to save you extra time. It's going to buy you time before you have to enter that Bravo. Maybe some S-turns, all the things you would do to slow yourself down, buy yourself some more time. But you can't do that unless you know the boundaries, unless you know, oh, I'm a mile away from this right now and I don't have my clearance. Know the boundaries, know where you're at. And these days with things like ForeFlight on your lap, on your kneeboard, there's really no excuse to not have that type of situational awareness. Lastly here, let me point out that I'm mostly talking about private, commercial pilots, multi-engine pilots before, not student pilots. But there is something to discuss regarding Class B and student pilots. FAR 6195A says students can solo through Class B. Students can solo through Class B with ground training, specific flight training, and a logbook endorsement for that specific Bravo piece of airspace that has a 90-day expiration on it. So it's not good forever. Quite honestly, 90 days seems pretty generous, but so there it is. I'm just here to say that as an instructor, unless there is a very specific reason, right, to put your student through Class Bravo on any regular basis, I think the better experience is for me, the CFII, to be there on that flight, to help you experience this without the stress and the drama. Now, I understand there might be a situation where a student needs to cross the Class Bravo to get to a destination or somewhere else or something else, but I feel like those are rare circumstances. As a down-to-earth CFI, first off, I've never given that endorsement in a logbook, and I don't think I ever would. Just even if you were instructing at San Carlos Airport, I cannot necessarily think of a reason I would want any of my students going through Class B without me. Now, once you're a private pilot, and we've gone over this a bunch, and the responsibility feels more on them, and they really have that confidence and even more experience gained, fine. By the way, this is part of the training that I love to give. The Class B transitions, the radio work, the frequency, back to the transmit button. I mean, it's a lot of busyness back and forth. Oh yeah, maintain your altitude and your headings, by the way. It's a lot going on. I love giving this part of training. I just don't know that a student solo benefits from that or why it's even worth it. So there you go, an entire video about getting cleared into the Class Bravo airspace. I really hope that some of this helped you out. And the biggest thing is, if this is something that intimidates you, that's fine for now, but don't let it be that way. Get the experience, get that under your belt, make this something that you, believe it or not, you will enjoy doing this with success and over time, and once you build a little bit of experience. So good luck in your Class Bravo flying. Again, thumbs up on this video if it helped you out, and subscribe to this channel for more content just like this.